All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is Karen Lewis. Karen is the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, which you can find at ctunet.com. You can also find her on Twitter at KarenLewisCTU. Karen, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
All right, so Karen, last week, Rahm Emanuel's Board of Education voted to, quote, turn around 3 more Chicago public schools. Let's start out. Tell me your reaction to that and what's actually going to happen at those schools.
Well, so turnaround is one of the 4 things that can happen to a school under Race to the Top, which is also, No Child Left Behind on steroids. And these particular schools are being given over to the AUSL, Academy for Urban School Leadership, which we call AUSL. Awful AUSL. And, it's an outside firm. They come in, they get an immediate $300,000 infusion, and they fire all of the staff, all of the adults go, including the janitors and the lunchroom ladies. Everybody goes. And then they bring in people who have been through their particular training program. Now, what we find is that there's an immediate increase in test scores, which they love to promote as what's going on. They have extra money per child. This goes on for about 3 years, and then it stops. And once it stops, you see a decrease in test scores or a stagnation of test scores. What was so difficult about these particular schools is that there's no rhyme or reason into how they choose schools. So the schools that AUSL typically choose are always schools that are either trending upward, they have a new principal, there's something going on in that new school that AUSL finds attractive, so that when they come in, they get credit for a lot of the work that was done before. And it's like one of those things of how do you choose the school? There are no standards. They say, oh, well, the school's been on probation for X amount of years. The problem with probation is that every single year, what can put you on probation changes. So once you start on probation, if you fix the things they tell you to fix, you would not be on probation anymore. And then, but they've changed the rules, so now you're continuing. This is like a real awful experience too for schools. The one thing that was very, very upsetting for me personally about this was looking at the school climate. Those are the surveys that parents and students and teachers fill out every year. But looking at the school climate, those schools were doing extremely well in terms of their climate. There was a huge increase in being highly organized. These are the kinds of things that tell you that good things are going on in a school. And to have that climate just snatched away, AUSL is also implements zero tolerance policies around discipline, which means the suspensions go up. We also see that a lot of the children that used to be at those schools are no longer at those schools. But they always have people that say they can find the parents who will also say, well, I didn't want it at first, but now that we've gotten it, I'm okay with it. So, but there's, of course you are, because that's what's in front of you now, right? So, yeah. This whole notion of this network, if you were to put all of the AUSL schools in a network, they would be at the absolute bottom of performance if you were to just rank by network. But they lead in suspensions and expulsions. So, I think at one point, my question now becomes, what is the plan for Chicago in terms of education? What is the real plan? Is it because AUSL has a graduate school program and they have to find places to put people, as opposed to so that they are guaranteed to have a certain amount of schools because they have people they have to place. Those are adult interests. Those aren't children's issues, right? And so part of the problems we have with this is we have a certain amount of contract schools like AUSL. We have a certain amount of charter schools, and we have a certain amount of district schools. Isn't it time now to sit back and just kind of look and do some analysis on what is happening in these schools? And if what they're doing is wonderful, can we share the practices? You know, as opposed to every year we go through this upheaval about what are we supposed to do. I mean, and it's like this top-down management style of we're going to take your school from you, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, is very, 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 very detrimental. And it's so undemocratic, it's not even funny. So we're at the point now, how do we have a real plan going forward?
Well, at the same time, it was just announced that there's going to be a $60 million new high school, surprise, surprise, on the north side. I am shocked that there's another giant high school going on the north side, and while other schools are being shut. And, of the 50 that were shut down, we're all mostly on the south and west sides of Chicago.
Well, I mean, selective enrollment is a thing that's very touchy in the city because people feel that they're entitled to go to those schools, right? Yeah. And if there are not enough seats, well, you have to make more seats. And if there are people that feel like they should have their children in those schools, and they are the ones that have access to the mayor, then they're going to have that happen. But, my problem with it is, didn't we have a law a couple of years ago about a facilities plan? And I know that I looked at that facilities plan, and I annotated it. Nowhere did I see a new selective enrollment high school in this area of town. But we didn't see, Lincoln getting an addition either. It's like, who gets to jump to the top of the list? I mean, we've been asking this. What's the plan? How do we do this? And, they just do what they want to do. I mean, this is part of the problem of having mayoral control. It has to stop. We must have an elected representative school board, which means that people on the school board represent the entire city, not just certain interests in the city. So we have to have an elected representative school board. We have to have a new mayor. We clearly have to have, because this is just not working. It is not working.